Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to go ahead and get started with our program. I'm so pleased to have you all with us tonight at the Jacksonville Public Library. I'd like to introduce to you all the director of the Jacksonville Public Library, Barbara Gubbin. Thank you.
Well, again, good evening and welcome to the library. It's so wonderful to see our Hicks Auditorium filled with so many people interested in reading and books. Makes my heart feel really good. So pleased to have you. We have a number of special people with us, and I'll introduce some of them. But I wanted to start off by telling you that this is the conclusion to a program that was started some years ago, and we've had off and on each year, which we call Jax Reads, when we ask you, our community, to come together and read the same book and then talk about that book. And I am certainly hoping that as a result of being here this evening and hearing from Tim O'Brien, the author of the book we chose, The Things They Carried, that you will go home and sit around your dining room tables or talk in line at the grocery store some more about this book, because I believe it has so much to say to us. In this memorable novel, Mr. O'Brien shares with us a gripping glimpse into not only the things that soldiers carry in battle, but the things that all of us carry in life. Things both tangible and intangible, the questions we all struggle with, questions that are, I believe, and I think most of you would agree with me, as relevant today, a time when we are at war, as they were when this book was first published 22 years ago. His discussion promises to offer much to think about, and we really do look forward, I look forward, and I hope you do too, to hearing from Mr. O'Brien in just a few moments. Jax Reads is also part of a program that we, the cultural and arts and performing arts organizations here in Jacksonville, have begun to promote under the title of Cultural Fusion. We're making an effort to bring together all of our organizations, big and small, so that we can offer our community a very full arts and cultural experience. And so our theme over the last few months has been the military, and so reading this book and collaborating with a number of community organizations is moving forward our theme of working together and focusing on a topic that we think will be of interest to the community. So when you see Cultural Fusion, I hope you'll look at it with a little more interest next time and realize that there's a whole range of activities coming under that headline. There have been a number of wonderful partners for Jax Reads. Our primary partner, WJCT Public Broadcasting, but also Players by the Sea. Some of you, I hope, went to see the wonderful play that is based on the book that was performed in late March, and also the University of North Florida. We and they have offered programs around the subject of the military, around the topic of the things they carried, to enrich your experience as a reader. It was wonderful programming on WJCT. I hope you caught some of that surrounding the Vietnam War. And of course, on Tuesday, our very own Melissa Ross interviewed Mr. O'Brien to talk about the book. It was American Place Theater in collaboration with Players by the Sea that gave the stage performance that was held at the Wilson Center at the community college on the south side. And then Mr. O'Brien went out to the University of North Florida today and talked to a number of students in their programs about writing and about his book. And then this morning, because we want to try and reach every part of our community, Mr. O'Brien came here to the library and talked to a full-packed auditorium of high school students who'd also read his book. And then we're really appreciative of the Florida Times Union, another partner who chose the things they carried as their Book of the Month Club. They have an online Book of the Month Club, which you might want to join if you're not aware of it already. And they all read the book and blogged about the book as part of our community. Thanks to the Friends of the Jacksonville Public Library, you can buy a copy of the book, and Mr. O'Brien will stay afterwards so that you can have it signed by him. But also thanks to our Friends group, we have print copies, e-copies, audiobook copies here in the library for you to check out. And we distributed more than 500 free copies of the books to high schools and to veteran organizations throughout Jacksonville to make sure that everybody had a chance to read and discuss this book. So those are a lot of partners, and I'm hoping that representatives of each of those organizations, Harry Reagan for the Friends, Michael Boylan for WJCT, Joe Schwartz for Players by the Sea, and Marcus Pachter with UNF. Would you just stand and let us thank you for being such wonderful partners with the library? We do appreciate you. I mentioned that we had given away a number of books to veterans organizations, but we have wonderful collaboration from our veterans in our community, particularly Vietnam Veterans of America, Duval County, Chapter 1046, and Vietnam Veterans of America, Clay County, Chapter 1059, the Veterans Council of St. Johns County, the City of Jacksonville Military Affairs, Veterans and Disabled Services Department, and the Wounded Warrior Project. And I think it would be very, very appropriate if all the veterans in our audience tonight could stand up so we can tell you how much we appreciate what you have given or are giving to our community today. So would representatives of the organizations, but everyone who's a veteran, would you stand up so we can thank you? Thank you very much. Thank you. I think many of us realize that we know how much you've sacrificed for us and that we don't tell you thank you enough. So thank you so much for your service. We are now going to have a presentation of colors by the Terry Parker High School Navy Junior ROTC Color Guard. So please stand. And will you now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. How remiss of me, I realized that there's one group of very important people I didn't recognize, and I really should do this. I think we only have one member of our Board of Trustees with us right now in the auditorium, although we had a second member with us at the reception that we held. But I really want to thank the library's Board of Trustees who provide such leadership for our library system, who enable me and my staff to be effective and to provide the very high quality of library service that I hope you feel that we provide to our community. Gerald Reed, I know you're there somewhere in the audience. Thank you, Gerald, and all of our Board of Trustees. And then let me also thank my staff who've worked so hard on Jack's Reads, the staff who've organized the program, but those folks you see every day in whichever library you go to, who help you find the best book to read for yourself, for your child, give you story time, whatever it might be. Thank you for providing quality library service to the community of Jacksonville. I really appreciate everything you do as well. Thank you. We are really fortunate, as I think you all probably know, to have a wonderful public broadcasting station and one that is very, very community focused in WJCT. Their support of Jack's Reads, I can't thank Michael and your staff enough for everything you've done with us and to help us bring this book to our community of readers and to give us the opportunity to hear Mr. O'Brien. So I'm going to introduce to you Michael Boylan, the President and CEO of WJCT Public Broadcasting. Thank you so much. Oops. I may have taken your notes. I hope not.
Barbara, thank you so very much. We appreciate the opportunity. Celebrate human diversity, encourage joyful learning, promote civic participation. That's what WJCT's mission statement is all about. And I think all of that is tied very well into this project. We're proud to be part of it. I, too, would be remiss if I didn't recognize Cicely Noble and Jerry Cirillo and other members of our staff who made the work happen today. So thank you for that. We are honored to have with us tonight an award-winning author, Tim O'Brien, to speak with us about the Jack's Reads featured book, The Things They Carried. Written as a series of interrelated vignettes based on the author's own experience in Vietnam, it is more than a war story. As O'Brien's character in the book says, in the end, of course, a true war story is never about war. As per a New York Times review, it is at one level a shattering fictional portrait of a group of foot soldiers mired in one of the war's obscure campaigns. On another level, it is an elegiac tribute to the powers of storytelling itself, a tribute that celebrates the transforming powers of the imagination, even as it acknowledges its limits. Mr. O'Brien himself describes it this way in chapter 18. I want you to feel what I felt. I want you to know why story truth is truer sometimes than happening truth. The abridged happening truth of Tim O'Brien's life and accomplishments can be found in this evening's program, which you can read at your leisure. But please now join me in welcoming to the stage the 2012 Jack's Reads featured author, Tim O'Brien.
Thank you. I want to begin by just thanking the city of Jacksonville for having me here, and not just for having me and my book into your city, but really for the big read in general, to honor the book and the Jacksonville read, that this is not in the end about me or my book, it's about the book, which is under, as you all know, incredible threat in our country by basically an electronic screen. All you have to do is walk through the Jacksonville airport, and you'll know what I mean. Everybody's hooked up to that one device or another. And very rarely these days does that thing happen to be one of these. It's called a book, for those of you who've never seen one before. I know it's old-fashioned. I'm not a speech giver. I'm a writer, and I spend my days and way too many nights sitting in my underwear in front of a word processor writing these stories. I don't put on suits and ties often. I don't deliver speeches often. And I'm probably not even very good at it. I'm not Bill O'Reilly or Oprah or even Tony Danza. I'm just a guy who writes stories. And what I thought I'd do tonight, as opposed to delivering a lecture at you, is really to tell you a couple of stories, which I hope I do best, and trust that somehow my message, such as it is, will soak through. By the way, it always happens through stories, a kind of osmosis. In good stories, there is rarely a definite moral, and if there is, watch out for that story. It's probably a bad story. Instead, there is morality, characters misbehaving, behaving well, and sometimes behaving in all kinds of confused, ambiguous ways. From the time I was a little boy of 8 or 9 years old, I have been a fervent believer in the power of story in our lives. And by that I mean all kinds of stories, not just those in books, but the stories that our moms and dads tell us, and the stories we hear in church, the stories we hear talking to neighbors, and more than that, the stories we tell ourselves about our own lives. We've all been there, I'm sure. You don't have to be a veteran of a war to lie in bed at night, say it's 2 or 3 in the morning, and something has happened in your life, and you're lying there telling the story to yourself or retelling it. It might be a broken home, or it might have been somebody who was hurt in a car accident. It might have been a jilted love, all kinds of things. Stories have a power to help us understand where we were and maybe where we're going. Stories can help us heal. Stories can console us. Stories can encourage and embolden us, even in times of great grief, of strife. Stories can help us see freshly, hear freshly, as if for the first time, things we've known down in our pores, in our cells, but have never really articulated. Stories can give us access to other people's lives. It can be all the way around the planet. A soldier caught up in a war in Vietnam, or a middle-aged woman named Madame Bovary living over a century ago in France. But beyond that, stories can give us access to our own lives, what we're going through. Stories can help us feel just a little less alone in this puzzling and sometimes terrifying universe we live in. You're in bed at night and you're reading a book you like, and you're in that book, rooting for the characters and even participating in some ways in the action. Just remember a book that really gripped you, and you're in the book in a way that makes you feel part of it. And it's a way of giving us a little late-night company. A good book can do that for us. Stories can escort us through the bleak hours of our lives and through the happy hours of our lives, also as a kind of company. In the end, though, stories are a reminder, no matter what the story. Alice in Wonderland, Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer, the things they carried. Stories are a reminder that we're all part of something mysterious and universal. That journey down the birth canal, out into the light, and then toward the grave. We're all part of it. Regardless of religion, color of the skin, we're part of that same journey, and good story reminds us of that in our bones. Before launching into the 2 stories that I want to tell you tonight, which I think are germane to the things they carried, I want to remind you that this book is a work of fiction. It's invented. It's made up. However, it's launched out of a real world that I lived in 40 years ago, 42 years ago now, a long, long time ago. Why write fiction? Why not just write a book about